update on not just the location changes, but also topics that they're interested in. I know that people can go to the website on their own, but a newsletter probably would be helpful. In the past, I've suggested a community engagement committee or citizen engagement committee. But the main thing tonight I'm here for is to ask for a stop work order in the issue regarding the Lansing Gun Club. I understand they did have a consent order almost 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. I think it was August 29 of 16, that said that they should actually stop shooting within 180 days and other aspects of that. That has not been followed. My understanding they're actually clearing some land. Again, that should be stopped. In today's Ithaca Times, there's an article about lead at the Ithaca gun plant and how many parts per million is allowable. We know that there's lead in the Santa Creek stream, and this is affecting all of our health. So I hope that this board will consider asking the town code enforcement officer to enforce that consent order back in August of 16. If you do read the details of that consent order, it turns out that it's actually a $500 a day fine for not stopping shooting after that 180 days after consent order. So you may want to look at that as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Number 2 is Stephen Smith.
I wrote you guys lots of emails. So my big thing is we've there's certain people in this group that petitioned the town about the rod and gun. They were successful getting 100 signatures very quickly. And then I've written to several state representatives, and they say they need to hear from this board for them to act, because the DEC seems to have some problems doing anything, and for whatever, there's a lot of they have a lot of reasons not to be messing with gun clubs, because there's so many, and they just don't want this massive lead cleanup or whatever. They're just afraid of the whole situation. So, and then everybody knows that Donald Trump pretty well took care of the EPA. So that's about all I have to say. I'd like the board to say something about all this.
Okay, anything else, Steve?
No, that's it.
Okay, number 3 is John Berger.
Yeah. Before I use up my time, I was wondering if there's any development today in regards to this issue.
Well,
does anyone come out? Because that might affect what I have to say.
First is Trojan floor, which we'll listen to respectfully. And then we have on our list next, which I'll move about, is the up-to-date knowledge on the Rod and Gun Club. But the Trojan floor is not only for that subject, for any other subjects that I have concerns about. So, Mr. Berger, if you want to share your concerns with us, or if you want to wait and address them at another meeting, that's entirely up to you.
I would like to share my concerns. Unfortunately, 3 minutes is barely enough to scratch the surface of the situation. And I feel a little bit pressured to even know where to start on this matter, but I feel like, as Steve basically alluded to, and I think other neighbors will say that, in terms of lead as a toxin and as a hazard, that's totally unambiguous, and the science is in. And it doesn't matter who you are. You could be the person shooting the gun. You're still going to get sick if you're exposed to that. So I'm going to be sending along, and anybody that's interested can read the documents that this been accumulating over the last 20, 30, 40 years about the things of lead. We're taking lead, out of gasoline, we're taking lead out of paint. Bullets, on the other hand, are almost made entirely of lead. So if someone can say, well, you take lead out of a bullet, then you can't use bullets. But that's obviously an absurd argument. There are people who say that they're perfectly good alternatives to shooting lead. This is such a high bar and seemingly such an obvious thing to do that to discuss it is almost absurd, because the reality seems to have nothing to do with the way the decisions are being made. It's as though, human health and public health are a hot potato that the DEC doesn't want to touch, the EPA doesn't want to touch, and hopefully the town board doesn't have the same opinion, because we're talking about the health of our own people here. So I feel like hopefully things can be done differently by us. I'd say don't be afraid to act, because we received an email from Matthew Marco the first time in the meeting, basically, that what the gun club has been doing for the past 30, 40, 50 years is illegal, that shooting into the weapon is a violation. It's a violation of the law. So why are we afraid to say, don't violate the law? I think that that's not showing a bias. I I think that actually what the gun club is doing is a violation not only of the law, but very specifically, if you look at the best management practice, the EPA's document, it's not just my opinion, there is a court case saying that when the gun is shot, that's not considered hazardous waste because the gun is being shot as designed, that the shot is intended to be shot. This is kind of twisted logic. But once that is shot, and then it's not reclaimed, now it's become hazardous waste. It wasn't hazardous first, it sure is hazardous now. If the gun club decides to move across the creek, they're essentially abandoning that whole zone. When they do that, if they don't reclaim lead, you can read this, don't take it from me, it becomes hazardous waste and falls under the Clean Water Act. So I've read this, and I think that this is important because if we decide that some people can flout the law and others want to be law-abiding citizens, it seems to be a form of bias, which is not fair to everyone. So I think that we should call a halt to what they're doing now, stop it. If you don't agree with everything I'm saying, it doesn't really matter to me. But I feel like it's indisputable that if there are important reasons why they may be in violation of the law, and also in violation of the consent order in terms of how this procedure is supposed to proceed, there's supposed to be opportunity for the public to comment, and there haven't been. There's many procedural things that have not followed. That alone is reason to slow this down so that there's time for people to say, well, what is this guy talking about? What is going on here? Whether or not you agree, I hope everyone can agree that something that's important like this should not just be allowed just to, roll along. I know you guys are now trying to find out what's going on, but I feel like, we could talk about this for hours and only scratch the surface of what's involved in this, So, again, I'm just asking to show some due diligence, Look into this. I have all this information here, but I feel like look into it a little bit about what the consent order says, what the gun club is supposed to do, what the town is supposed to allow the citizens to do, what the EPA supposedly is there to do, and what the DEC can do. And I feel like if we do that, we might decide that we want to call a stop, which is essentially saying, this isn't saying that this thing could not be done, but it can't be done under the circumstances the way right now it's being proposed. That's a low bar. I feel like that's so low, we're almost tripping over it. If we can't get that, I'm really, really disappointed in the whole nature of our government. So please, let's take a look at this. Don't be afraid to act, Don't be afraid to say, we want to understand exactly what the plans are, and we want to look at the law. We want to see how the law applies. That's really what I think. I think, personally, many other things, and I won't bore you with that, but this, I think, I'm going to stand by. And I feel like many people will, I think, support that stance. Basically.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have Tim Farrell.
I would just like to know what happened when Lynn Day met with the EPA today over at the Rod and Gun Club. EDC.
Mr. Farrell will comment on that after our go to the floor, okay? Are there any other comments you want to make?
No.
Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa Rosica, 101 Salmon Creek Road. I live right next door to the Rod and Gun Club. I'd like to ask you to issue a stop work order. We all know how the gun club pulled their application via their lawyer, saying that their grandfather in and they didn't have to do anything. You should make that part of public record so these people can read that letter. They withdrew their application. They left everyone hanging. Nobody knew what was going on. It looks like we know what's going on now. It looks like they're moving forward with their project. They have to be held to some kind of assessment. They have to. This town should hold them to reapplying and doing the assessments they need to do so that we, the town people, can feel safe. So we can, you know, we can, if they're allowed to move forward on this at all, after they reapply and have permission, you know, to, after they assess things. They can't just be allowed to move forward and do whatever they want.
Okay.
It's a shooting range. It's not a porch that two people are going to sit under and maybe it crashes down on them and hurts them. It's a shooting range. You know, we need to know that it's two shooting ranges side by side. We need to know that assessments have been done, that they've answered those assessments so that either they're not allowed to go forward, which they shouldn't be because everybody knows how bad that is. And it just takes common sense looking at that steep slope where we're going to get water runoff and more contamination. Well, we definitely get more contamination. These things should be done in a flat area.
Okay.
And it'd really be best if they were done away from everything, but I know that's not part of the regulations. I know that they can have their range 500 feet from not even my property line. But yeah, I'm pretty alarmed and I'm pretty frightened to think that they could just be moving forward with this, with no experts guiding them.
Okay, thank you.
Make them stop. Make them stop.
Next one is Gabe Nicholson.
Jane Nicholson on Maple Avenue in Ludlow. I live downwind and downstream of the gun club. And I have been sending all of you quite a bit of information over the last 4 or 5 years. I talked to the DEC about this issue back in the 90s when I was on the Open Space Region 7 committee. So it's been going on for a long time. We've all been aware of it for a long time. I've been working with 4 or 5 other people. We've collected a lot of information, which if anybody would like to tap into those Google Docs and see the photos, see the maps, see the articles, see the research, glad to share that with you and become more informed. It's also important to realize that this is a national problem with shooting ranges, and lots of other municipalities are having to butt heads with gun clubs, who are, in many cases, backed by the NRA's funds and their attorneys to go and work on behalf of gun clubs to overwhelm what the local residents and citizens want to have happening in their residential neighborhoods. So this is a pattern that we are part of. And I'm tired of having to use my time for free, working on this issue, when my taxpayer dollars that are going to EPA, DEC, the Lansing Town Board, the town board, our staff at the town, it seems like nobody has got the capability to stand up for health and well-being of the residents. There's no doubt about the toxicity and the threat. There's really no doubt that what the gun club has proposed as a solution is untenable. Their stewardship plan and the consent order documents acknowledge that they don't have anything really viable for moving their range from where it is currently to another place. And then they don't think they can do a shot curtain, and no, they can't stop shooting with lead. So in a way, I feel like they've boxed themselves into a corner where they ought to just shut down. And the members could go to all the other shooting ranges that are around in the area, you know, for their hobby. So it's clearly untenable, and it's clear that they're thumbing their noses at all levels of government and their neighbors and this community. They're thumbing their noses at us, and I would like to see the town issue a stop work order immediately, because the legal argument of that attorney is fallacious. It will not hold water in court. I don't think we need to worry about ever being sued or losing in court. It's just all bluster and bluff. So I think that we need to, right away issue a stop work order and enforce it with whatever fines they administer at the local, state, and federal level.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more names of people who have come in. I'm sorry, one more. Violet Stone?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I bought my house in Milledgeville 12 years ago, and within a year my son had lead poisoning, and he was 6 months old. It was a very small amount that affected him. It didn't affect my husband and I, but very small amounts affect different people in different ways depending on your genetic status. Obviously, the younger you are, the more you're affected. We moved out of our house to assess what to do, and 2.5 years later we returned to have a huge garden, and my second son also got lead poisoning because there was lead in the soil where we planted the garden. Both of them, they're doing great, but they both have had academic struggles, which is something my husband and I never had, and we always wonder whether the lead affected it. Now, what we decided to do, rather than sell the house and send the problem on to someone who might not be responsible, or burn the house down, or knock the house down, was to take painstaking steps over 10 years to do a demolition which included thousands of dollars of HEPA filters, infrared, paint strippers. I mean, I could go on and on about this. It cost us a ton of money. We lived in different places while this was going on, all so that we would have taken care of this problem in an ecologically sound way, and it took an enormous toll on us. I actually got, during one instance where I was being unsafe, I didn't get OSHA certification like my husband did, I actually got such a high level of lead poisoning that I still have lead in my system at a lead poisoning level. And that was 7 years ago that this happened to me. So when I think that we've taken such care of the environment to not put lead into it, and that my sons can go down and swim in Ludlowville Falls, and that someone is actively choosing to put the lead in the environment when there's other choices, it seems like a blasphemy against humanity to me. How can anyone let this be? I mean, 10 years of this struggle. I mean, my son and I actually were still friends, but we're divorced. It took so much out of us. I'm the real story of what lead poisoning is. And I know that these are small doses, but like I said, my son's dose was so small that he was so young, and all he had to do was breathe it into his lungs, and that's what it took. So this is what this is the question here. What level is too small? How could anyone be allowed to put toxins into the environment when there's a choice to use a different kind of bullet? I mean, how can that be an ethically responsible and morally responsible choice for anyone to make? I mean, maybe if we were talking about having to save people's lives, but I mean, we're talking about a hobby. I'm not saying that people aren't entitled to their hobbies, but if there are different choices that can be made, those should be examined.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, okay, I got one hand up here.
So I'm new and I got delayed, so I don't know how this works, so I
Okay,
apologize.
this is privilege on the floor. You're going to have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes to talk. It doesn't have to be about this issue. If you have another concern, you're allowed to share.
No, I was just going to kind of tack on to everything else everybody already said. If that's, I can be quick.
Need your name.
Okay, sorry. Ben Finio, F as in Frank, I-N-I-O. I've been on emails, but
This is your address, Mr. Finio?
74 Sharpstein Road.
Okay.
So we just bought a house in Lansing this summer, and one of the major draws to the area was Ludlowville Falls and Myers Park. I didn't, we didn't know about the gun club issue until after we bought the house, and we'd been swimming in Ludlowville Falls. I have a 2-year-old, and I was terrified at first. Oh my God, did we just get my daughter lead poisoning by swimming in the falls once? And my understanding from the dosage information and from talking to different people is that, no, you're not going to. Swimming in the falls once isn't going to kill you. About, if you live, these people were talking right there. So I guess just as a new resident, basically what everybody else just said, it was kind of mind-boggling that it's just like, nope, we're shooting tons of lead into the creek every year for decades, and our reason for continuing to do it is because we've always been doing it, deal with it. That's kind of the assessment I got as a new resident, so I just wanted to, I guess, provide that perspective because I think everybody else has lived here for a while. Again, I know some of the people in this room have been on emails about this, but I was curious, kind of what Gabe talked about, if there are any success stories from other municipalities who, went toe-to-toe with a gun club and their lawyer and came out on the winning side. I don't have a sense for what the scale of the problem is nationally, if like 90% of gun clubs are still using lead and giving everybody the finger, or if they're kind of switching over gradually. And I feel like that would help inform the conversation. You know, if we tell them, hey, everybody else in a 50-mile radius is switching to steel, you know, what are you guys doing? Versus it makes it harder for us if everybody else is still using lead and shooting into a creek. So I'm trying to get more well calibrated on all that. I don't know how much of that information.
They can do that. They're irresponsible and refuse to change to steel.
Gun clubs, they either evolve or they close. And,
Okay,
and
response
most
say-
people are
I don't
responsible.
interrupt Lisa about this poo to the floor. Your comments will be directed to the board members.
Okay, sorry. Didn't know the rules. Yeah, so I'd be curious, and again, I know some people in here are working on this, but just regionally, you know, I understand it's a national problem, but around Cayuga Lake or whatever, you know, what's the situation with, and can I ask you questions right now, or is this just me
Talking comment time right now for you. You talk, we listen.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I won't get an answer on that right now, but I'm curious what it's like for what the legal precedent and environmental precedent is regionally for the Cayuga Lake watershed, or whatever, you know, makes sense to define as a geographic region. You know, obviously in Ithaca we have the Ithaca gun factory, which is a slightly separate story, but you know, I assume generally anybody near Cayuga Lake doesn't want lead in it, and you know, adding to that isn't helping. So curious how that works.
Okay. Thank you. Is anyone else who wants to make a comment and put it to the floor?
My name is Larry Beck. I live at 12 Dove Road, and it's just downstream from Ludlow Falls, where mist is in my neighborhood, in my yard. My only comment is this question of the attorney that they have no zoning requirements. My experience with owning property in the city of Ithaca, anytime you want to change something zoning, it's either a use variance or an area variance. And I'll argue that they've got use, and that's what they've been doing for many decades. But the area variance seems very obvious that they have to apply for a variance because they're doing it in a different area. They're doing it, they're expanding, so their area use has changed. And I'm not sure what the board thinks about that, or Mr. Crow thinks about it, but it seems like we should be responding to that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to make a comment? About anything to do with the town, not just this issue? Okay.
Thanks.
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to speak about the gun club.
I just need your name, please.
Melanie Malone,
And your address, please?
3 Myers Heights Road.
Okay.
I live nearby Salmon Creek, but in a different area than Ludlowville.
Downstream, right?
So I just wanted to point out that which everyone seems to know, that the gun club has been very invasive and dishonest since March at least, probably before then. But the questions of the community members have gone unanswered. We've repeatedly gone to planning board meetings and other meetings and have asked, and the planning board themselves apparently didn't even get the information they requested from the gun club. So that's one issue. Their stewardship plan that they presented over 6 months ago, the gun club said that they would be holding informational public meetings. Not one has been scheduled. Also, wanted to point out about this, that they could continue as is. And I don't know if people they seem to be familiar with all that's involved. Shooting lead into a unique natural area, clearing of land greater than an acre, removing feet of soil as well as vegetation from steep slopes. That's going to occur every 5 years. They want to create a bridge, run a shuttle. They want to continue to deposit neurotoxins and create a new toxic field. And this is all within 5 miles of Ludlowville Park and Myers Park. Surprisingly, their mission statement of the gun club says that they are protecting, preserving, and enhancing our natural resources for the members, the community, and future generations. So, you know, there's a long, well-documented timeline of public concern over the Lansing and Rod and Gun clubs. outdated practice of using lead for a trap shooting, a recreational activity. And I just wanted to report to the board that I've spoken with many Lansing residents about this issue, and the most common theme comes from gun owners themselves, and they say that, they tell me, I own guns, I shoot guns, I come from a gun family. We don't use lead. There's no need to use lead. It's irresponsible. And so that's the general feeling I get from the community. And I would just ask for the agencies that are involved in the town, the DEC and the EPA, to keep the concerned citizens informed of what's going on, considering the magnitude of this situation. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to close the code floor and move, I think, our agenda around a little bit and address Lansing Gun Club. We have our code officer, Lynn Day, here, and he's going to give us an up-to-date. And if you would respectfully listen to him, I appreciate that. He was invited on the property today. And I guess we'll just leave it at that, and you can give us an update of your findings. I must warn you, though, this is a continuing investigation. Okay? It's a process. One of the purposes tonight is kind of lower this temperature a little bit. One of the reasons we have responded a lot of emails is because it's an ongoing investigation. And anything that we would do prematurely as board members, acting as the agent of the town, may actually hurt. As my dear friend Trina says, we the second mouse, not the first. The second mouse gets the cheese. So that's why patience sometimes, it doesn't mean that we're ambivalent. It doesn't mean we don't care. It's that we have to be thorough so when we do move forward, if we go forward, we're on solid ground. So instead of that, go ahead.
We have an active investigation going on, so I'll be brief. Previously, the Rod and Gun submitted a site plan application which was withdrawn. They started logging roughly about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. This past weekend, the club had a work session on removing and cutting down trees. The Rod and Gun had invited and had a DEC officer on their site Saturday during this. I've been in contact with the DEC about the DEC and the neighbors' concerns. Yesterday, the Rod and Gun invited me to walk the site to see firsthand what's going on, which is all part of the investigation. Today, I walked the site, had a discussion, took pictures, documented everything. I asked about the heavy equipment, excavators, etc. The excavators are there, they have thumb attachments, so they can pick up the brush and remove the tops of the trees. So you know at this point there has been no excavating, stump removal, trenching, etc. I will be visiting the site again tomorrow to take more detailed look at the site. Fact finding is an important part of any investigation before any action is taken. And at this point, we have not received any application, any further application.
And you're going to visit again tomorrow?
I am visiting it again tomorrow at 11:30, I believe.
I understand your frustrations. If we attacked, we not have been invited in. Then the walls go up, the attorneys talk to each other, everybody sits there as the fees get grinding back and forth.
Well, what is their intention? Are they just cleaning things up?
Right now, they're removing trees until I get an application.
Well,
I
and
will-
No permit for that, and the amount of trees, or like they can clear a certain amount, or can they clear up to an acre, or can they, at what point do they need a permit?
Once they, up to an acre, after an acre, they have to do a basic SWIP. And that's one thing that we'll be looking at again tomorrow.
What's that, a basic one?
It's a stormwater mitigation type.
Well, it's at least an acre, isn't it?
I don't know that.
Well, they're moving a lot of grass
Well, how long
for
do
just
you-
logging, aren't they? They? It's all, looks like it's all bulldozed out and stuff to
They
me.
have not removed those.
How will you?
Well, you see the dirt from the pictures that we've seen. They,
If I, can I answer in a little
Yeah.
bit?
Sure, now this premise is like, Once again, the investigation's going on. He's going to go on the property tomorrow to get an accurate idea. And that's why you get an accurate idea, and up to him. One of the things that we found is that you dig up the dirt as you're moving around with the excavator, or is it actually intended to move that away? We don't know that, but the good news is he's allowed to get back on the property tomorrow to make that determination.
One thing I will
And
say,
measurements, so you know how big it is,
I'm gonna reel it
because
off.
otherwise you won't know it's big enough.
One thing I will say is the pictures that you guys are seeing in the aerial and what I saw actually on the ground today are completely different.
Okay.
It's not that it's not the same area, but when you're right there on the dirt, you guys are looking like what it looks like is just a massive dirt pile, that's not the case. There's
Well,
grass coming up
it's
through
been
there and
cleared
everything.
considerably. I can see in there now, I can't,
So can I, and I was on the side.
Well, whatever the dirt thing is, I don't know, they've taken down lots of trees. I mean, sure, I live right down there, I can see in there now.
So, Mr.
It's massive what they've
They're,
done.
they're just not logs, there's brush too they're cleaning, right?
Oh, yeah, they're removing all the brush.
So you have a question, comment?
Just a terminology question. When you say that there's an investigation, that means Lynn, or like does the town have a lawyer already, or you don't get a lawyer until it's a last resort?
We have, the investigation is conducted by a code officer.
Okay.
If the threshold is triggered over an acre, action is taken. But it has to be justified. So the question would be, for me, if I was in the audience, what can I do? What you can do is what you've been doing, not so much with the emails. I mean, that's fine. I'm not going to respond to any of these right now, but if you can send me more accurate information to build up our database on certain things, that's extremely helpful. So you're an involved group along with us, and I appreciate that. Mr. Berger, thank you so much. This has been extremely, is he still here? There you are. Thank you so much for your articulate emails you sent us. And when I said thank you, that's all I'm responding to right now is we're building up information on our end. Our town's attorney has talked to our code officer. There are action plans in place if this happens, this happens, this happens. We've been talking about this for weeks. When a situation arises, we will act on a methodical, calm, legal way. And all options are on the table. I know everybody wants an answer tonight, and I'm very concerned about lead also. And one of the questions I would ask, people are more attuned to this than I. Are the water samples being taken above gate and below where this Riding Gun Club is? Do we have any samples of water samples?
Well,
So planning board asked for that in
The
March.
planning board wanted them to do, but we never heard any results.
Do we have any data about that? Because I would be interested.
We have sediment samples.
We have also a professor from Michigan College who would like, as a class project, to take samples. She wants to approach the Rod Gun Club and would like them to allow her. I mean, it's an issue which I'm not sure. It's a very interesting situation as to what is legally permitted in terms of gathering samples. Because I've been in that creek, and maybe other people, you can smell after they've been shooting, smoke in the air. If you can smell smoke in the air, you're actually inhaling small amounts of lead. Because every time a gun is fired, and the gun club doesn't want to switch, one of the reasons they don't want to switch to using steel is because it scours their guns. In other words, the gun is scouring the lead, which produces dust particles as well as vapor. So it's like we don't breathe secondhand smoke, we don't have to, but if you live in Ludlowville, essentially, well, it's not much. But why do we have to be breathing secondhand lead at all? But anyway, the question is, if I go into that creek and take samples that are from, say, below the high tide line of the creek, whose soil is that? Because that soil is no longer there. That soil is now down the creek. It's in Ludlowville. It's over the falls. It's down at Myers Point. It was their soil temporarily, but it ain't now. And the water doesn't belong to them either. So if you cannot find anywhere any documentation as to how that creek has been defined, which is a sticky point because this is the EPA and DC being afraid of, I'm not sure what, doing their job. Maybe that is their job. Create, impossible catch-22 barriers for us. But it's like we can't determine what our rights are. We don't have the right to find out what's going on there. Is that unreasonable? If, we've been told, sorry to, we've been told that nobody at the Rod and Gun Club would like to provide samples. Why can't we ask them? Give us samples. And why don't you guys, the Rod and Gun Club, get your blood tested after one of these events? Because it would be good to know if you're contaminating yourself because you want to be stewards. You may go home and contaminate your own children, which would say is a form of child neglect. So anyway, I don't want to go on with this, but it's not an easy thing to get samples. If we get samples from down the creek, dilution is not the solution. There's hundreds of thousands of water. There could be 1,000 pounds of lead at the base of that falls. We don't even know where it is. How are we supposed to find out? You know what I mean?
I understand.
EPA said this time, there's no need. They say Bolton Point, they tested the water, there's no, I said to Ed Guster, are you kidding me? Bolton Point, that's like 10 miles down the lake. If that water is poisoned, that means almost the entire Clear Lake is poisoned. So that's what EPA is doing for us. So EPA needs us. They need us to sort of say, no.
Okay.
We don't accept this kind of shenanigans.
Okay. You gonna comment?
What did the DEC say? I'm asking Lynn.
I did not meet the DEC or the EPA today.
Oh, you didn't talk to them? Okay.
I did not.
Has the town been in contact with both those agencies yet?
I've been in contact with the DEC regularly. I don't know about the EPA.
You're in the back here first.
Sorry. My understanding, Gay, I don't know if you were on these emails earlier, but about the testing, if you test upstream and downstream, so it doesn't need to be on the gun club's property, but whoever owns, I don't know what the borders are, but if you see a difference there, I guess that somebody explained this to me earlier this year, that's why you need to be careful about only testing downstream, because then they could still claim that, oh, that could have been coming from somewhere else upstream of us. So, and I think there's also a group at Cornell that will do water samples, either for like $30 or, so again, I don't understand that as a citizen, like if the town wants official water samples that can go in whatever legal records you guys have, like as a private citizen, can I just decide like, screw it, I'm just gonna go pay Cornell $30 and do it myself, or does Lynn have to do it? How does that, like who's responsible for doing that?
Well, my concern is since we are now very sensitized to lead poisoning, we've done it through the paint in houses, and now we're doing it through gasoline, is to see what the extent, if there is, what's the source of this poisoning, and how do you mitigate the problem. I mean, if you stop it, okay, it's one thing, but is there mitigation, or is it simply you contain it and you leave it alone? I don't know. I have, like I said, I have tremendous sympathy for everyone here with their concerns. But at what point do we start, who starts to mitigate that process?
Well, I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about having a piece of paper with test results that you can show to their lawyer, it's like, this proves that you were poisoning things downstream, not just on your.
Well, I think that the lead in the ground is proof enough. It's just a matter of, does it get into the water system or not? Where is the extent of this damage? Is it no longer no swimming, no fishing area now? I mean, amongst other things, I don't know. And I also be very concerned downstream how far that would actually go. Does it go down to Myers Park?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
It would make sense for the town to pay for academic sampling.
Again, like if it's $30 for now, I'll pay for it now.
Something that we, so we agree.
And one of the things that I'm concerned about the drinking water, being on the Bolton Point Water Commission, we've talked about the algae bloom, we've talked about other things that obviously will be a subject that I will bring up tomorrow at a meeting, is there concern about lead contamination? So these are all good questions.
Well, I'm kind of agreeing with Katrina. We have at least test the falls. We've got numerous citizens who swim on a regular basis.
It is part of our park system.
It's part of our parks. We need to tell our community, is it safe?
We test for the drinking water quality down there for the swimming. I don't see any reason why we can't expand that. I think that's one of the things I was alluding to, is that where's this problem going? And if you stop it, okay, have you stopped the problem or not? I don't know that. That's what I'm trying to gather data here.
It makes sense for us to do due diligence and
collect
more data.
Where can citizens right now, we're going to start testing the falls?
We have a budget.
Well,
we can put some money in the budget.
we have we have researchers here that can give us guidelines, who we contact that can do that, okay?
I think that you should be asking the DEC to come and do a complete sampling and a more of a grid approach, because it's, you know, you're not going to find lead in the rushing water, not at that pH. It will be down in the sediments, it will be in the banks and in the leaf litter where it's a little more acidic zone, so it will be leaching into a variety of compounds and then migrating down into the groundwater. I also think it would be good for us to get some measurements of just how much lead vapor and lead dust is borne on the wind during one of their massive shooting meets where they have, you know, 100 people there shooting for hours and hours. How much dust is coming down into our lungs and settling on our gardens? I really think that I don't see why the DEC shouldn't be approached and asked to do this. I talked to Barbara Lifton yesterday. She let me know that she talked to Matthew Marco, the Region 7 director. He said that they were going on site either yesterday afternoon or today to inspect it. In terms of the stormwater regulations, it's more than an acre disturbed. They should have had a permit, and they're supposed to be doing best management practices of hay bales and other. You know, so if we get a storm out of this heat wave, a lot of that's going to go into the creek. In terms of remediation, I can give you one example of a shooting range out in Washington. It was a little under 2.5 acres. I saw the engineering study and they looked at, you know, different mitigation measures. And the cheapest one was to cap it with 2 feet of soil at the cost of $842,000. So who's supposed to pay for that is the question. From this gun club's hobby.
Michael, you've been very patient, thank you.
Could I ask Guy, what's the status of the consent order? We're past the 180 days, about a year and a half in terms of no shooting.
I'm not aware that the EPA has or has not renewed or replaced or extended the consent order. It was a federal consent order, not a town consent order.
So they've passed the deadline. What is the town doing to enforce the consent order that has been signed?
The town doesn't have enforcement authority under RECRA pursuant to a federal EPA consent order.
And the town asked it to be enforced.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the state people are saying. All
Why
the
does the town not
Barbara
know the
Lifton
answers?
and Pam Hemming and the governor of New York want to know what's going on, but they said, we need to hear from the town. All you have to say is, we support the EPA order. That's all you have to say. You don't have to get into anything
Senator
else.
Helming and Assemblywoman Lifton, they're very much interested in.
But they have to hear from the town.
But they want statements from the town.
Well, the EPA wrote us a letter a month ago asking what the status was of the whole gun club issue, and we were going to draft a response. Is that been drafted?
That wasn't what they asked, and there is a response that's out of date but hasn't been approved yet.
How do we move that forward?
It could be approved.
You-
Presumably the town board.
You just have to support the EPA.
So, what are we going to say?
Don't know.
I think it's being outdated because things have happened, because it's gone around to the different chairs. This year there's 2 different versions of how this goes. And now that since there's been action taken and things have been sped up, this is something that we can work on in the next few days to see what we can do for that letter. The issue was, in my opinion, you have the EPA and the gun club talking. And the town was supposed to stay out of it until something happened. Well, it seems as though something is starting to happen now. That's one reason why we didn't jump in the middle of this. And if that happens, we can all speculate tonight what could happen, we should this will happen. The bottom line is we have an action plan in place. We're allowed to go on the land tomorrow with the code officer. He'll make an evaluation, and depending on his evaluation, he'll make recommendations to the town. And from there, we'll move forward in one direction or the other. And it's a process. And we can go over and speculate all we want tonight, but the bottom line is this is going to take some time, and it's going to take some patience.
But we can just make a resolution supporting that
consent order.
Right.
Just so-
I can't imagine you do not. Say, we don't agree with the EPA. We think they should keep dumping lead. Now, that just is nuts.
We don't know what they've been talking about. Maybe that's been extended.
They've already signed an agreement. We're gonna stop shooting lead into the creek. That's the agreement. These guys don't wanna go along with it because they don't have enough money. The board, or the planning board said, yeah, you can do all this stuff, but the problem is you don't have any money. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the 1950 game. That's a totally...
I'm not going to speculate. I would support the consent order.
There you go. That's all you need to do.
That's as far as I think that we should go until we move forward methodically with this plan.
And if I could just say one more thing. According to the EPA, this is not my thing, the EPA best management practices, and I think we've sent it to you now. It says that, this is so bizarre, I don't understand how, but anyway, this is what it says. It says that they can shoot, but once they shoot, now it's a waste. And if they don't then do something to reclaim, then it's abandoned, and then it becomes hazardous waste. So if they were to move their field across, they're essentially abandoning that field. They've done nothing over the past 50 years to reclaim anything. Matthew Marco from DEC, even though he says we're not going to do anything, they presumably are trying to get the EPA to do something. I don't know what, maybe they are. But he said in an email that this is a violation of the law. So if by law the gun club is required to do something, you say, well, how can they reclaim it? How they can, they shouldn't have, yes, that's a good question. How could they have done something which now they can't undo? No, it's very difficult. But by law, they're required to try to do something. They should be saving every penny. They shouldn't be going over there cutting down trees when they are obligated by the law to do something to try to clean it up. So I think the town has a right to tell them, you can't be spending money over here when you have an obligation here which you've ignored for 50 years.
Well,
I mean, does that seem somehow...
That's not part of the EPA consent order. The EPA has been willing to let them not mitigate the first hazardous waste site because of the wetland and the notion that that would be disruptive.
Yes, but we know, and they know that that's actually...
a great deal of it is not wetland where the lead has been.
It's a lot, yes.
Yes,
well,
most
I
of
think
it's
for
not wetland.
tonight, we have an action plan, though it may not be as fast as people want, to methodically look at the situation tomorrow. And we have options that we can put in place. And there's other options we haven't even discussed tonight we can put in place if we have to. But for right now, let our code officer do his work. And he's going to mark it off. So it'll be official, what it is. From that documentation, that can give us time to find out what our action plan will be. In the meantime, our support of the consent order, I think, sends a strong message not to shoot anymore over there. If they do it in a different area, I don't know what we've been talking over with the EPA. I don't want to speculate and risk the town. Because, like I said, all options are still on the table. I think we continue to have respectful and informative discussions. People can assume all they want, they have their right to. I don't have that privilege. And trust me, I'm boiling inside. But I don't have that option to speculate and assume and hope. My job is to put the town in a position where it can move forward in a protective manner and still address the concerns of all the citizens. So I thoroughly understand that. I thoroughly understand lead poisoning. We have a tremendous amount of Eastern Europeans that come to this country and they have lead poisoning. In the pharmacist for 35 years, I deal with this. I also deal with people who smoke for 45 years and abuse themselves, and here we are having a problem now. So I get the fact that you say you don't lead in there for 50 years, now we got a problem? Yeah, you're saying the choir on that one, but I don't have the option. Go ahead and charge ahead. What I do have the option is to work with my colleagues here and try to move forward in a responsible, informed manner.
So we can ask the
Well, I've got a
EPA
question
to do
first.
one or two.
Yeah, I want to get to that. First, what's the threshold for issuing a stop work order? It's an acre of land that's been, how much disturbance? I'm asking them, what's the threshold that you're looking for? Because I know everybody's kind of throwing these numbers around. What is it?
I'm not going to get into this.
I asked Glenn here as a guest tonight, and I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable, put him on on the spot.
I'm just trying to understand what we're talking about.
Well, once again, it's, I think we need to go through and let him make his recommendations. I think we need to respect the office. He's a detailed person. He's very good at what he does. But what he also does is he documents everything so he can defend it. So let Lynn do his job and not make him uncomfortable. I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, I'm not trying to make it uncomfortable, I'm just trying to get an understanding.
Your intentions are good. I understand that. But in all fairness to him, I think we should just let him do his job, and then we'll see what his recommendation is.
If we, at the next town board meeting, will we hear his findings and what his recommendations are?
That's 2 weeks from now. Is that enough time? Okay.
And in the meantime, I know it's a process, but if the process over there turns into them building things or things like that, should I email Lynn? Is that?
For the record, Lynn can't go on property unless he's invited.
I know, but if I
Okay,
see.
so if you invite him over to your land
Oh, yes, well.
to look,
Mhm.
he can do that, but he can't go on a private citizen's land if he's not uninvited to do that.
Well, I think you guys, you know, the town can't do anything. You need to turn it over to Pam Helmy and Barbara Lifton. They can pound on the DEC and the governor, or I think he's more than welcome to do it. The town is out. All they have to do is support the EPA, because there's nothing the town can do. It's the DEC that has to enforce it for whatever. Where you turn Barbara Lifton loose on them, or Pam Helmy, and said what their problem is, then things are going to happen. But the town isn't really going to be able to do anything with it.
Okay, one more, and we can wrap this up.
So I guess follow up, new citizen question, not asking Lynn, leaving out this. What, stop work orders in general, like I'm building a fence in my yard and Lynn's office told me it's less than 6 feet tall, so I don't need a permit. But if I build an 8-foot fence, is that just like in a code somewhere that you can show up and say, hey, you can't do that? Or like, do the police show up? Like, who enforces that?
All right, let me give you a hypothetical.
Okay.
Okay, hypothetical is you want to build a porch,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't get a building permit. And he can see it from the road.
Mm-hmm.
He can inquire by saying, do you have a building permit? He says no. And he can issue a stop work order. And if you violate that, there are consequences.
Okay. But if I build it in my backyard and you can't see it from the road, then...
We can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Unless a neighbor complains.
Unless the neighbor
The
complains.
people we bought the house from tried to get away with the pool.
And that's been done.
So.
That's been done. When the next door neighbor invites you over and say, look at that, it's been done. And what happens then is they either correct it, they stop building, and they correct it up to code, or they have to tear it down.
Could we get a letter from the town, or the town could pass a resolution, calling for the enforcement of the EPA consent order? Because I think if we had a copy of that, then we could go to Senator Helming and Senator Lipton and Gillibrand and the EPA and to the press and start putting a lot more pressure on the EPA to come and enforce the consent order. We had a conversation with about 8 attorneys from the EPA. I wasn't on that phone call, but you know, that was within the last couple of months. So they're supposedly looking into it, but they haven't taken action. And so we need to create pressure so that that office does take action.
I believe the comments tonight were to have a resolution to support the consent order.
Yes.
That, I think, is what we will do tonight.
Right.
There you go.
I don't know if that's been, sometimes people can't hear everything if they're just going back and forth. But once again, not to be rude, I think we need to wrap it. I think we made great progress tonight. We have some options open. We keep the lines of communication open. But please do not feel that if I don't respond to you, it's not that I visited you many times, that I don't care. I also advise our board members not to give out their opinions because they're acting as agents of the town. If you want to send me stuff that I can read, I'll say thank you. Okay? That means I'm reading it, I consider it, it's part of my database, and I appreciate it. But I'm not going to give you an elaborate answer or anything personally. And I advise my board members not to either. And if you want to talk privately about this, that's fine. Yes, Lisa?
Well, I'd like them to stop shooting lead over there. But one of my concerns is that could force them, definitely drive them next door to me, which is fine if they're not shooting lead. Well, really, it's not fun. I just want to know that if that were to happen, that the town is going to do something to, you know, keep us safe from that.
I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. That's what I can promise you. What is the town going to do? That's going to be up to the board members to see what the options are out there. But there's no reason why any citizen should feel unsafe in their home. On the other hand, to the addressing the Rod and Gun Club, I hope at the end of the day that some positives come out from both sides. And because for many years they have been into conservation and maybe even other stuff. Right now, there's a lot of black clouds floating around. And I hope at the end, this is all settled, that we still can coexist with each other and not have permanent issues. So that's why I ask you to be calm.
Superheroes.
Yeah, let's not.
No, I'm just asking you, please, just be calm right now, okay? And we'll try to address this once again as fast as we can, okay?
I'd like to do three things at this meeting. I would like to, have a motion supporting the EPA consent order. I'd like to ask the DEC to help the town assess whether the air downwind from the gun club and whether the water at Ludlow Falls is safe. And I'd like to get moving on answering that EPA letter.
Okay. What we do with the consent order tonight, we can support that. The second one will be a letter to the DEC asking them.
I think it's just the board saying we want to. I think there's going to be some negotiation because I don't know exactly what the DEC does and what it did, but I think we need to move on telling our community, is it unsafe downwind if they're doing one of their shootouts? Is there a bunch of lead dust spewing over Ludlowville? That's a question I think is legitimate, and we need to find out an answer to that. Are the falls contaminated? People swim there every hot day. I'm sure there was a ton of people there today. We need to be able to tell our citizens, is it safe to be swimming in those falls? And, we don't have the resources ourselves to do it. We don't have the specific knowledge of how to do it, but the DEC does, and I think the town needs to reach out to the DEC and say, help us.
So we would write a letter to the DEC with board support asking for them to do an analysis on the air and also the water quality.
Yeah.
And not just liquid water, but
The sediment and stuff, right?
and the shorelines.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be more biologically active and available.
Well, the whole Ludlowville Falls area, which includes the rocks, the sediment, the water, just, look that over, and I want to be able to tell our residents, yes, it's okay to swim there. It's okay to sit on the rocks. It's okay to dig in the dirt on the edge. I think we need to be able to tell our citizens either, yes, it is, or block it off and say, I'm sorry, this has been contaminated. You can't swim here anymore. But we need to know, we need to be, honest with our citizens on that.
Let's, first of all, take one step at a time and write a letter and ask them.
Yes, that's what we need to do, is we need to find the answer.
The rest of the stuff, I think, are noble, hopefully there'll be noble objectives. Hopefully some positive come out of this. And we go off and concerned about the water. I'm obviously on the same page with you to see what the analysis is. But once again, we can ask and see what goes from there.
Question, who owns Ludlow Falls?
It's in the town park.
Yeah, it's the park, the falls, and East,
Which part are you asking?
The fall.
Oh, yeah, I think that's the first. You said Ludlow
I
Falls?
said who owns Ludlow Falls?
Yes.
The town. I know the town land goes all the way up to, along the creek up to where it comes close to Water Creek Road.
I don't have an answer for that, Dan. Okay. If that's nothing else, we'd like to move on to the next part of our meeting. I think we should. That's the next part of our meeting. We need to get past the discussion part and we go to, now what kind of language you want to put in front of the board for this? Or do you want to give Guy time to do this so so we can have it at our 19th meeting, so he has time to propose this. And also have time to propose one for DEC. In spirit, we can do a consensus, yes, we support the consent letter. Yes, we support having the DEC do the analysis of all the different areas. But in all fairness, to do this quickly tonight, does that give our attorney enough time to thoroughly draft something that we may have missed and want to do it at 2 years? Yeah, I think so. Once again,
as far as the DEC testing and using a traditional grid pattern, that's easy. You simply start that dialogue. And as far as responding to the EPA and their question, that's easy. It's already been drafted. You can answer that. As far as supporting the consent order, I think that's sticky. Because if you support the consent order, then you are per force agreeing that there is a plan and a method that you support by which they can continue moving and relocating their lead shooting fields in that area. If that's in fact what this community wishes to support, then by all means, support the consent order.
That's not actually what the consent order says. It doesn't actually say.
It gives them options on how to continue and relocate their practice.
Probably not feasible to move the field according to the best. If the town says we support the consent order with best management practices as EPA stipulated, then the option of moving the field is actually considered by EPA a rather dubious proposition. We're not saying they can do it. They're saying that if they wanted to do it, there would be considerable hurdles. So the gun club has never even discussed what, even pretended to address any of those hurdles.
we may be presumptuous in good faith on some of this stuff, and our attorney has given us some legal advice.
You can rely on her legal advice you think is worthy.
And the sad part, though, is if we don't at least consider his advice, and all of a sudden here we are, and it's something we don't want, oh my, what have we done? Once again, are we being premature here? One of my goals tonight was to lower the temperature.
I would suggest that you simply modify it until you have a longer period of time to figure out exactly what you should say, what you wish to say. I would say that you should support the enforcement of the consent order on a temporary basis until it's fully evaluated and reissued or terminated.
That would give us,
I think there's a huge difference between those two statements, but again, there is a legal difference, and it has meaningful impact, especially in a court. There's a difference between reaction and thought, and thought is the direction the town needs to go.
I think the big thing is to be able to get the state representatives to start going to work on it, because they really can't do anything without some kind of comment from the board. It's really not so much a legal thing, it's the spirit. It's that, yeah, we support the lead, something about we support lead stop going over the falls or something. So that's what they need to.
So we've had plenty of comment here, and now we're doing the work.
Right.
So,
That's what you
let
us do our work. And Guy has given us excellent advice, in my opinion, how not to make the town vulnerable, and yet.
Well, and we also have a secondary issue, and that is that to the extent that a ZBA member, a town board member, a planning board member, people who may, in fact, in the very near future, be called upon to review an application, if the town crosses certain lines, takes certain positions, makes certain admissions, presents by its very position predetermination of the issue, or inability to judge an application fairly, then you have some very basic due process problems, and you will have recusal issues.
You might have to not be able to weigh in.
Those who speak out most loudly are going to be those who ethically must remove themselves from not just voting on the issue, but even discussing the issue. Sort of like what we had when a former planning board member said, I just can't decide on this in good conscience. I'm predetermined. Get up, leave the table, and cease participating in the conversations. So part of the advice that I gave a while ago to speak only generally, stay out of this process until there's an application pending before the town, was to avoid the equal protection, due process, and ethical issues that are raised by those actions. So what the town says, it has to say carefully, because we cannot prejudge and therefore preclude ourselves from reviewing whatever application does come, whether it's going to be granted or denied.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't Guy and I get together and put together a resolution for our next meeting?
How about the town board work on this with Guy?
Okay.
Those would be public meetings if you have a quorum present.
I was just thinking we draft something and then bring that back to the board.
No, I think the town board should work with Guy on this.
Okay.
And, because we have our input on this.
So do we want another special meeting?
No, he's on vacation next week. This is something we can do in,
Well, I mean, I don't know how long it will take Lynn to finish the investigation.
well, that's the other part, is that some of this might be premature. The fact is you have this, you had mentioned something about supporting a temporary consent order. Is that what you're making reference to?
Well,
Or you're making reference to something else?
No, I was saying, working out the wording the Guy kind of threw out, but I don't want to do something in a haste, is what I'm saying.
I think if you said something like that, that was non-committal, not specifically supporting or denying whatever future use may or may not exist on that property, you at least get, as has been suggested, a position on the table that lets the DEC move forward,
I think
which
that's
frankly
the goal.
I've been saying for a few months. Where the hell are they on this?
Right.
I find it rather unfathomable on many levels that the EPA needs the whole town of Lansing to actually follow up with enforcement of RCRA. The DEC needs a town to move forward on solid waste management facilities, which they have exclusive jurisdiction on. We're preempted from even regulating solid waste facilities. Okay. That doesn't make any sense to me. So when things don't make sense, there's other motives in play.
When Guy says solid waste facility, he's referring to the lead that's been deposited.
It's a RCRA issue. We're preempted from even regulating it.
So having said that, is there something that, in your professional opinion, you feel comfortable tonight putting forward in a resolution, or do you want time to send it to all the board members first? This may take 2 weeks before next board meeting. I don't know. I don't know if it is or not, but on the other hand, you talk about due diligence, we don't want to be half-cocked, no pun intended, going into this either.
I just think if you made a general resolution saying that you support the EPA enforcing its existing consent order, that you approve inquiry being made to the DEC to begin testing and examination of this site and nearby facilities, including what is a protected Class CT stream. I think that would at least get the ball rolling.
Can that be done? Yeah, I was going to say, that's so moved that we have it on tape. Is
Well,
that so
I would
moved or
say,
should we-
yeah, so moved, and if you want to authorize me to start drafting a letter, and once all 5 members of the board are comfortable with what it says, hopefully it can be more formally approved by a longer sort of positional resolution in 2 weeks.
Okay, as
Because
per,
then we have our investigation in place, we have our reply on stormwater from the DEC, we may or may not even have an application from the gun club. All the pieces may come together in the next 2 weeks. Who knows?
so as per your verbal
We support
resolution,
you moving forward.
can we move on that, and can we move on that tonight, or is that premature in your opinion?
No, all you're doing is saying, EPA, why don't you please enforce the federal law that you're the exclusive enforcing agency for? I don't think that's not certain.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the consent order first. That letter to DC is the second part of the
Well, it was part
resolution.
of this, it was part of this.
Is that part of the resolution also?
That we would like them to enforce the consent order, but consider it temporary since it's expired and has to be reissued on new terms now that new information and more time has passed.
We don't even know if they have the issue.
I'm not
I
sure.
don't think they have.
I don't think it expires.
It has a date on it.
Well, I'm comfortable with that.
So we have a motion to accept said resolution. Anybody want to second it?
Sure, but I want Guy to look over the expired part.
Well,
Because I don't want to make a mistake that's going to be a problem.
well, if we're rushing this, we can wait. I don't want to put him in a,
We can take 5 minutes for.
Yeah, I don't want to make a mistake and put the town in a vulnerable position.
thank you.
I don't believe I'm the second mouse all the time. What is this? Wait on. You've done magic with me.
break. You can stay there if you like. It's entirely up to you. But we're not responding because we're ignoring you. So we want to get some clarity here.
Thank you for your time and your attention and your service.
So, stupid new question again. Are we allowed to talk at all anymore, or is this you guys are busy and we're just kind of here to listen down?
Well, I can listen to you now. I mean, I don't want to engage because we're trying to get something done tonight that you want.
Okay.
But if you want to...
No, I don't have anything. I was just curious in general.
No, I enjoy your thoughts and your...
I was going to, do you guys have a copy of the EPA order? Is that what you're looking at now? I was going to like try to look it up on my phone and
No,
figure
I
out.
just had it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I have it somewhere.
It's perfect, but it's drafted.
L, I'm going to check. LN?
It's that copy.
Yeah. All right. Are you...
I can read it to you, but you're not going to be able to read Sanskrit.
Okay.
Two ones in the same school. Go ahead.
It would say something to the effect of as follows. The town of Lansing hereby resolves as follows. 1. The town attorney, with the advice and consent of the town board and code enforcement officer, shall draft letters to EPA and DEC as follows. 2. DEC shall be asked to 1. Do air testing in vicinity of LRG. 2. Do soil and water testing in vicinity of LRG up and downstream of the LRG site and at Leadville Falls. 3. Delineate wetlands in vicinity of LRG. Then those would be little Roman numeral 3s, and then back. Number 3 in the resolution. EPA shall be notified of the town's support for the enforcement of the existing consent order with recognition that the consent order is non-final, perhaps expired and not to be extended, and subject to amendment pursuant to intervening facts and new information as it arises. 4. The town notes that it still awaits application from LRG relative to land use changes in the review of the existing lawful or unlawful non-conforming use, and reserves its right to supplement recommendations as further investigations, facts, and applications arise or are submitted for consideration and review.
Cover all the bases. We're vague and concise. Thank you.
Well,
I'm serious. I mean, you just have to be generic enough to incorporate the spirit, but not be too specific that you box yourself in.
You're authorizing me to start the process. You're taking a position. You're saying, we want help evaluating this. You're telling me EPA.
Collect data.
Here's what you wanted. Here's our position.
Good.
Enforce
I'll
the order.
move that.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Laura?
All in favor?